The Philippines is being called Asia's rising tiger. But what exactly does this mean? Posting a GDP growth of 6.7% in 2017, the country has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, expanding at a rate unseen in the last 5 decades. The good news is, it's just getting started. The better news is that we have designed a brand new city to be the nucleus of this economic renaissance. Less than 1 hour from the capital, Manila, straddled by hills and blessed with tropical climate all year long, we are building the city of the future, a landmark development twice the size of Manhattan. Originally developed by the Americans for its secure and strategic location in Asia Pacific, Clark is being transformed into a disaster-resilient metropolis that will be competitive and attractive to a global market. It will consist of 4 main districts. The Clark Freeport Zone, an existing mixed-use complex established in the 90s. Clark Global City, which will serve as the primary business district. And New Clark City, which will house satellite government offices and a first-class sports village. Central to all of this is Clark International Airport, which will soon be expanded to accommodate up to 80 million passengers a year. This ensures that travel will be comfortable while trade is seamless. A city unmatched in connectivity, with access to world-class highways and the service of high-speed railways, connecting north to south and east to west, across surrounding seas and over oceans. Clark is a city built as living proof that business in this part of the world is not only easy, but simply better. With no red tape, lower taxes, and endless investment opportunities. This is a city prepared to attract talent so that the country's best and brightest will come here to work and choose to call this place home. Because this is a city that knows how to play, where you can unwind at your own speed, where safety is paramount, and people always come first. This is a city where history and culture thrive, where modern conveniences meet timeless traditions, and progress is driven by passion. This is a city with limitless ambition that may someday find itself among the great cities of the world, built for business so that time is always well spent, and built for people so that life is always well lived. This is Clark.
right. Good day, everyone, and welcome to HR on the Go, where top trends and hot topics in HR and people management are coming your way. So buckle up and prepare for takeoff. HR on the Go is a joint collaboration of Clark HR Council and International HR Institute, airing live on the CHRC Facebook page every month. If you are interested in becoming a CHRC member, join us via www.clarkhrcouncil.org/join. And just like that, though, we are already on the last episode of our second season. And in today's episode, I am joined actually by an experienced recruitment manager for us to talk about managing recruitment and selection in a hybrid workplace. So, as we all know, no, in 2022, employers were, on a crossroads as they attempt to ensure that the employees had all the resources they needed to maintain their productivity and, of course, sanity while still meeting organizational goals. This paved the way to the birth of, a hybrid workplace. And with the birth now of hybrid workplace, employers had to reimagine their recruitment processes from doing in-person interviews to now doing it online and doing virtual interview processes and onboarding processes as well. And now to help us understand how to manage your recruitment and selection processes and strategies, may I introduce to you our speaker for today. She is an alumna of Holy Angel University with a course of Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Right after graduating in 2015, she started her career in HR recruitment for a BPO company. For the past 6 years, she stayed in the same industry and acquired various roles from being a recruitment specialist, coordinator, and up to being a senior recruiter. She experienced and learned the ropes of end to end recruitment and also got the chance to lead her own team as well as other sites from her previous organizations. In 2022, she decided to change her career path and go on a different route, which led her to greater opportunities. She is now a recruitment manager for an HR company in Angeles City that offers premium headhunting services. And finally, of course, she is also a certified practitioner in human resources or CPHR. It is now my honor to introduce to you Miss Michelle Eileen Felker Mendoza. Hi, Miss Mitch.
Hello, good afternoon, May. Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, Miss Mitch, thank you so much. I know that there's a lot going on in recruitment right now, and I know that you really had to make time for this one. So again, thank you so much, ayan, Miss Mitch. And for this afternoon, we are going to talk about parang two topics nga, We're going to talk about recruitment and selection, specifically in a hybrid workplace. So to begin with, Miss Mitch, ano nga ba? What is hybrid? What is the hybrid workplace model?
Okay, hi everyone. So for that one, for hybrid workplace model, it's very straightforward. It's pretty
Mm-hmm,
much having part of your workforce be on an on-site. Part of your workforce being on-site, and the other half
mm-hmm,
being in an off-site. It can also be mixed. So
mm-hmm,
part of the week you have your full force for everyone to go on
mm-hmm.
site, and then some parts of the week going off site. So when you
Mm-hmm.
mix it, it's hybrid.
Mm-hmm. In your own experience, Miss Mitch, do applicants no and employees nowadays prefer this hybrid setup? Because in my own experience, I haven't really experienced this. No, it's always
Hmm.
on site or off site or
Hmm.
virtual. So I'm not really sure. Do applicants nowadays prefer that kind of setup?
Well, that's actually a good question. If I may also share my experience with
Mm-hmm.
it, I've actually experienced interviewing candidates with these preferences. So
Mm-hmm.
far, candidates are leaning towards going on a more hybrid setup
Mm-hmm.
compared to like a permanent on-site setup,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of factors, especially when COVID came in, it has
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
been slowly transitioned to hybrid, from working from home full time to going to hybrid, because
Mm-hmm.
it becomes more convenient for our employees or for candidates to have
Mm-hmm.
that option. And
Mm-hmm.
I personally experienced it as well, as I've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it has its pros and cons, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it pretty much is something that it's an option for employees or candidates
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, and well, yeah, candidates are leaning towards having
Mm-hmm.
it.
I'm just wondering, Miss Mitch, when you say hybrid, but do employees get an option, or say for example, the organization decides for it, say for example, I want you to go to work 3 days and then 2 days, you can work from anywhere. Do they get an
Mhm.
option, or do employers decide for the setup?
Well, most of the time, the employers or the company is the
Mm-hmm.
one who decides kung sino yung
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um who's gonna be going on site or who's gonna be working off site. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of the structure itself, it's really more on the company's prerogative,
Mm-hmm.
and because it involves planning and whatnot, so
Mm-hmm.
it becomes an option nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
which companies are are adapting.
Mm-hmm. I see, I see. Now that we've talked about hybrid workplace, I want to talk about how much, as you being a recruiter, how much has recruitment changed with this kind of setup?
Well, I'd say it has drastically changed, with the past few years because of
Mm-hmm.
the onset of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It is a drastic change from going to on site and then
Mm-hmm.
transitioning to work
Mm-hmm.
from home and then hybrid setup.
Mm-hmm.
So the changes really entailed a lot of planning, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
changes, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that I would like to think that almost all companies did plan
Mm-hmm.
how they're going to
Mm-hmm.
go about it. It definitely
Mm-hmm.
did have an impact, especially in HR recruitment, because majority of our candidates, from what we
Mm-hmm.
are experiencing before COVID hit, we
Mm-hmm.
process them on site, and then the expectation is as well is that they will be reporting on site.
Correct, correct. With actually, I've done my research as well. There's a term actually called hybrid recruitment. No, are you familiar with that, Miss Mitch? If you
Yes,
are, can you share a bit about what really is hybrid recruitment and how do you do it?
yeah, actually, hybrid recruitment is something that I've experienced myself. This
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much during the height of the lockdown. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken, that was around 2021
Mm-hmm.
or 2020. So hybrid recruitment is processing candidates both on site and off site. So we have
Mm-hmm.
options of, say, for example, we source them virtually, like we use
Mm-hmm.
social media and the platforms we have for sourcing. And then there are
Mm-hmm.
stages of the recruitment wherein they would be going on site to
Mm-hmm.
continue their process. And for my experience, we've done that before. We mixed
Mm-hmm.
it up a bit so that we also have the chance to meet with our candidates and make sure that
Mm-hmm.
we set expectations on a more personal level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned about keeping it on a personal level. No, so I think how difficult is it to keep that kind of personal level and personal touch with these candidates doing it virtually. How do you
Mhm.
keep up with all of these changes?
Yeah, that's actually one of the challenges that I noticed
Mm-hmm.
when we started with hybrid, and
Mm-hmm.
I can say that it also can be the case for other
Mm-hmm.
companies, because
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you have that connection with the candidate is very important. And
Mm-hmm.
well, I've been doing recruitment for like more than 6 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
majority of that is face to face. I noticed
Mm-hmm.
that for me it's a lot easier to talk to candidates if they see you.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
we can read how they react and whatnot.
Correct.
Doing
Mm-hmm.
it on a hybrid setup or on a virtual setup as well, it can be a
Mm-hmm.
bit challenging, but it can
Mm-hmm.
also open opportunities for us to explore more on that. It's
Mm-hmm.
really keep making sure that you keep your candidates warm by checking on
Mm-hmm.
them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
make giving the extra mile. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
would you
The
do it?
candidate experience.
Yes, pretty much making sure that you give a red carpet experience, and
Mhm,
that for
mhm,
me is one thing that is really, I'd like to think, being practiced on
mhm.
the setup that we have for hybrid.
So apart, since we're already talking about the challenges of, doing this kind of setup, what else are the challenges of, doing hybrid recruitment with at this time? And of course, we do have a lot of viewers probably that are recruiters right now and doing all of these work. Now, so how are they not going to lose their candidates doing
Mhm.
this? What are the challenges that they may face in the future?
Mhm. Okay. Well, I'd like to start from from the planning part of
Mm-hmm.
a hybrid setup. For
Mm-hmm.
us to be able to have a successful, or at least go towards success when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to doing hybrid, we must, or companies should be able to plan it like to the T and make sure that everything is provided for the setup.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
combination of on-site and off-site.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenges there would be, of course, if you're off-site, you have to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you have your first internet connection. So
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be secured, and of course, you need to
Mm-hmm.
have your own unit or your own
Mm-hmm.
equipment. So those are the things that may become a challenge. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think it has become a challenge for some of us when we were starting to do
Mm-hmm.
hybrid, because
Mm-hmm.
when the lockdown happened, it was very sudden. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
really have that much preparation.
I
So
can
that's
already
why.
imagine. Just to interject, now I can already imagine the problems the Converge or PLDT or the telecommunications company are facing when everyone has had to go online and all of that. So I think, yeah. So please continue, Miss Mitch, about planning.
Yes, that's correct. And well, this it's one of the most important things to
Mm-hmm.
consider, because we live in a
Mm-hmm.
virtual world. Another thing,
Mm-hmm.
another challenge that we can, another challenge that can be anticipated would be some miscommunication. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
different when you're working together on site versus
Correct. Mm-hmm.
part of the team work versus working off site.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
miscommunication can occur, and at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, some of our tools may not be available, readily available, if
Mm-hmm.
you're like working offsite or if you're in a hybrid
Mm-hmm.
setup. So part of that, maybe as a solution, is really being ready for it, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
everything is available, so that it will
Mm-hmm.
not hinder the process or the recruitment process entirely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot, no? That's a lot of challenges that we're talking about. So baka natakot na yung mga recruiters natin sa nag-hybrid, no, doing everything virtually. Now that we've talked about this, no, Miss Mitch, I think, these challenges naman talaga with every kind of situation, challenges will come definitely. Now naman, Miss Mitch, I want to talk about naman the good side of doing hybrid recruitment, no. So can we talk about naman what's the benefit, what's in it for the recruiters if they're going to do the hybrid recruitment in the future?
Hmm. Yes, for the recruiters, or the benefits for the recruiters would be, first is we save time with the, well, like maybe the commute, or
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
driving. At least
Mhm.
you won't have to wake up earlier than your usual shift, or
Mhm.
the time that you usually wake up. And then
Mhm.
also, not just time, but also we can also save money in terms
Mhm.
of the commute and whatnot. And since you're already
Mhm.
home,
Mhm.
or if you're already on a hybrid setup, you'd be able to maximize your time, since you won't have to worry about going to and from
Correct,
work.
correct. Mhm.
And at the same time, it also, since it's hybrid, on-site, off-site, the time
Mhm.
wherein we go on-site, we can catch up with our teammates and be able
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
collaborate then, and
Mhm.
pretty much have that time for yourself, to be able to focus on the things that you can work on and whatnot.
Mhm.
Plus, it can also be an extra time to have with your family, and
Mhm.
that has been something that I can say a lot of employees um,
Mhm.
have been thankful for. I myself, when I was in
Mhm.
hybrid, I was
Mhm.
really thankful for it. And
Mhm.
actually, if we're gonna ask me, the advantages actually are really a lot, because
Mhm.
you kind of can relax. You can be on a
Mhm.
relaxed, uh, you can be in a more relaxed environment,
Mhm.
and can be able to explore a lot of things really within the setup.
Mm-hmm. With that said, Miss Mitch, I feel like that's a lot of benefits for the recruiters. But how about for the organization? Baka kasi meron silang hesitations na baka, ay, naku, baka pag nasa bahay sila, hindi sila productive, mga ganyan.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's in it? What's in it naman for the organization if they're going to implement the hybrid setup for recruiters specifically?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question. For the organizations, one first thing that comes in mind would be saving space in terms
Mm-hmm.
of, in terms of the offices, the buildings that we occupy. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, in terms of the well-being, because right
Mm-hmm.
now we are very big on, employee well-being, and at the same time,
Correct, correct. Mm-hmm.
we also have mental health well-being. So it
Mm-hmm.
may
Mm-hmm.
be beneficial for our employees to
Mm-hmm.
be, in that setup, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, as well as the on the
Mm-hmm.
company's end as well. Like what I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
first would be
Mm-hmm.
the office setup. We
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can, or well, in the past, if I may also share,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the companies, instead of instead of using the what do you call this, instead of using the allocated budget for a new office, so they
Mhm,
what they did is they just used it for the employees, so
mhm,
um to give like merits and whatnot for the
mhm, mhm.
employees, and also some support. And at the same
Correct.
time, it also lessened the cost of
Mhm,
having to pay for like one whole building. And
mhm. Correct,
at the
correct.
same time, for leaders, well, for leaders,
Mhm,
it also opens an opportunity, to reach out more. This is something that I've noticed. It opens an
mhm,
opportunity to reach out more to our employees, because
mhm,
you're going through the same thing. You have
mhm,
that, so you have similarities that you can connect with. I mean, it's
mhm,
not for everyone, maybe, but it
mhm,
can be an
mhm,
opportunity.
mhm. Miss Mitch, since you are a recruitment manager and you mentioned something about, we're already big on, maintaining the mental health, mental wellness of your employees. I believe you also have, staff to handle since you are a recruitment manager yourself. How do you check on your employees in a hybrid setup?
Hmm. All right. So for that, to share, we have some of our partners that are working offsite as well. Sometimes they
Mm-hmm.
come in here, to meet and greet. What I do
Mm-hmm.
is I give the same treatment to those that are working
Mm-hmm.
on site and working offsite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some might think that you have to give extra effort for those that are working offsite, which is
Correct, correct.
somehow true, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's really the balance. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
want my partners working offsite to feel like they're not being supported the same way that
Mm-hmm.
my partners on site are. So what I do is constant checking with them, not
Mm-hmm.
not micromanaging. That's different.
Yeah,
It's really
correct,
just
correct.
really
Mm-hmm.
checking with them, asking how
Mm-hmm.
they are. We have
Mm-hmm.
um, weekly meetings on the business
Mm-hmm.
side to
Mm-hmm.
monitor their progress as well, and pretty
Mm-hmm.
much
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they know that you're there, they know that you're present, and
Mm-hmm.
that so that they won't have to be hesitant to reach out. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I really did, or is doing with my team right now, is keeping
Mm-hmm.
that constant communication, not just
Mm-hmm.
not just with the work side, it's already given, but also
Mm-hmm.
we try to motivate each other in a way that they won't have to feel that like they're alone,
Mm-hmm.
isolated,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mm-hmm. Correct.
if they're
Mm-hmm.
working offsite. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's really important to have that communication and that support. And
Mm-hmm.
with our team right now, we try to cultivate that um, level of support, not just coming from me, but also
Mm-hmm.
with each of the team members. It can
Mm-hmm.
be it can be a little challenging to start, but if it's something that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can apply, well, we have somehow applied it with our team. I can say it's
Mm-hmm.
very effective, because when even when I'm not present, even if
Mm-hmm.
the partners are far away from each other, they can still support each other and really
Mm-hmm.
help out with the things that are needed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think with what you mentioned, Miss Mitch, I feel like, no matter what kind of setup you have, though, as long as, as a leader, if you keep your constant communication, constant checking on your employees, I think they would stay motivated, engaged with what they do, and, with in terms of your recruitment, of course, they're gonna be still be productive and,
Correct.
active with sourcing and all of that. So that's such great initiative to do it in the workplace as well. Now naman, Miss Mitch, I want to go to the nitty-gritty, no, or mas technical kind of things, no. How do you do sourcing and all of this ng on-site and then off-site? How do you do things na
Mm-hmm.
kasi I mean, I'm not a recruiter, no, I'm in L&D, so I feel like it's a bit confusing, especially I do onboarding, no, since that's part of training as well, but that's part of recruitment as well. So how do you balance, like, what are the things that can be done on site and what are the things that can be done virtually?
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, for that one, it can be tricky, as you
Mhm.
mentioned.
Mhm.
And again, I would have to go back to planning. First, you need to plan
Mhm.
and also plan for everything. First,
Mhm.
part of that is really making sure that you have a structured recruitment
Mhm.
process.
Mhm.
That could be that can be done both virtually and
Mhm.
on site. So
Mhm.
parts of it, like when you source for candidates, since
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
living in a virtual world, like I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's a lot easier to attract talent, especially
Mhm.
nowadays because people just go online and whatnot.
Mhm.
Since we have, we had restrictions and we kind of still have restrictions nowadays, and
Mhm.
well, we have to include the preferences of our candidates. Sometimes they
Mhm.
prefer going on a
Correct. Correct. Mhm.
hybrid setup when it comes to even the recruitment part of it. So you
Mhm.
have to make sure, as I mentioned, you have to make sure that you have structured
Mhm. Mhm.
recruitment process, and then you follow that and you divide it into what can be done on site and off site. So, sorry,
Mhm.
going back, we have our sourcing. So, from sourcing, it can be done virtually, as mentioned, via, sorry, via online.
But
Can be done
but do
via
you
online.
also, how do you do sourcing? Can you do sourcing virtually? I mean face to face as well.
Sorry.
Hello, Miss Mitch, can you hear
Sorry.
me?
Sorry, I
Can you
think
hear
I'm
me?
losing you a bit.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me now? Better. Is it better now?
So, sorry. Yeah, I think this will be, yeah, this should do. This is
Yeah,
fine.
can you hear me now? Is it better
Yes.
now? All
Yeah.
right, yeah. So
Sounds
just
pretty started.
I was just asking, no, sa sourcing ba, kaya ba siya ng, how do you do sourcing na hindi virtual? I feel like sourcing
Mhm.
has always been virtual to me. I'm just, wondering, sudden thought lang.
Yeah. Actually, sourcing is it's very broad in a sense. We have,
Mhm.
sourcing and marketing and
Mhm.
branding. It has a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
fan base facets.
Mhm.
We do it, if we're gonna do it on site,
Mhm.
we're gonna be really like going to print ads,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
all, kung saan siya lahat pwedeng applicable. We have print ads, we have billboards, we have posters and whatnot.
Ah, yeah. At saka
So,
yung mga ano, no, Miss Mitch, what do you call this? Yung mga sa school, no, where companies would set up their own booths. What do you call that? I forgot the term, but
like
yeah.
like job fairs,
Yeah, job fairs. Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
that's a sourcing in the sense as well, not sourcing. That's part of sourcing. So, but I feel like right now sourcing talaga is being done virtually with, with the tools being used and all of that. So with tools naman, Miss Mitch, what are the tools that you usually use for, if you can just share some, no, syempre to our viewers right now. What are the tools that are necessary in doing hybrid recruitment?
Hmm. Well, you have your usual, of course, when if you have your equipment, you have
Mm-hmm,
your usual tools. But I personally, well, for us in my experience,
mm-hmm,
since we are doing um, off-site or hybrid sourcing, what we
mm-hmm,
do is we reach out to our candidates when we do sourcing
Mhm.
through the platforms that we have. Like, for example,
Mhm.
LinkedIn.
Mhm.
We've experienced using JobStreet, Indeed before,
Mhm.
and other platforms that can be used when it comes to reaching out to candidates, even Facebook, sometimes
Mhm.
Instagram,
Mhm.
nowadays TikTok, you know.
Grabe, grabe. Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. And also, in terms of the tools that the recruiter is going to need, first you need your applicant tracking system, which
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
go both ways. You can be
Mhm.
from when the candidates come in, or even from sourcing up to
Mhm.
onboarding.
Mhm.
So in the past, we've made use of our own applicant tracking system,
Mhm.
which, like I mentioned, they register from the get go, and then
Mhm.
they can be onboarded in that. It's very helpful, really.
Mhm.
And trackers, I have to
Mhm.
say, trackers are very important
Mhm.
um, to be successful. Or
When you say
that's just
trackers,
me.
Miss Mitch, what are these trackers?
Well, this is pretty much your own, from
Database, parang
himself.
ganun
Yeah,
ba siya?
like a database,
Mhm.
and making sure that everything is accounted for,
Mhm.
ganon.
Mhm.
And I myself have different trackers even when I was doing recruitment. I
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
trackers for candidates that are coming in, trackers that,
Mhm.
for endorsements and
Mhm.
whatnot. They can really help. And we actually have some, they're available, readily available online. So you won't
Mhm.
really have to make use of Excel. I personally
Mhm.
love Excel,
Mhm.
but there are a lot that we can use online.
Mhm. So, Miss Mitch, I know that we're talking about hybrid workplace and recruitment and selection, but you mentioned something about applicant tracking system, and maybe for the sake of our viewers who are interested, what actually is an applicant tracking system?
Well, yes. Great question. Applicant tracking system is, well, it can be in-house. It
Mhm.
can also be as simple as an Excel file. Though if it's an Excel
Mhm.
file, you would have to input everything there, information
Mhm.
about the
Mhm.
candidate
Mhm.
and whatnot.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Majority, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm just assuming here, but
Mhm.
based on my experience, most of the companies that I've worked with, we have
Mhm.
this in-house. If not in-house system, we have that is being purchased,
Mhm.
by another provider,
Mhm.
and we use that to log our candidates in. So it can
Mhm.
go both ways, from the
Mhm.
candidates end and also from the recruiters end.
Mhm.
For the candidates end, they can just log in, fill out the information needed, and then it's
Mhm.
going to be stored on our end. We can access it. And like what I've mentioned before, it can be used from the time that the candidates come in up to their onboarding,
Mhm.
like generating their logins and whatnot.
Mhm. I see. I see. So, Miss Mitch, how important is it for an organization to have an ATS of their own?
Well, it's extremely important because
Mhm.
this is where you can see and check
Mhm.
for the count. Well, first is on a quantitative side, because
Mhm.
you will have to look at how many candidates are coming in, maybe on a daily
Mhm.
basis, weekly, monthly,
Mhm. Mhm.
annually. And then on the qualitative side is really checking on each of the individual candidates, even
Mhm.
checking who has already applied before, or who
Mhm.
are those that
Mhm.
are eligible for reapplication, or even for rehirement. If,
Mhm.
yeah, for
Mhm.
rehire.
You know what, Miss Mitchell, just to share, no, I remember when I was in my internship before, and everything was still manual at that point. And then when you have to check on everybody's 201 files, you have to check it one by one. So you have to check all the CV of the employees, you screen them one by one. But I think right now, no, with the use of ATS, I think you can, you can just automatically check the employees, scroll through their profile easily. So I can't imagine no not having these tools anymore. So, Miss Mitch,
Yes.
no, I'm just wondering as well, no, with of course with this technological advances, no, you think it's possible? Because right now I think meron na rin um yung interview na parang automated, mga
Mm-hmm.
ganyan. So,
Mm-hmm.
in your own ano lang, I'm just naisip ko lang bigla, no, is it possible na mapalitan tayo ng mga tools na to in the future?
Well, in my own opinion,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'd say it has to be very very high tech, like to
Mhm.
recognize
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
the changes in tone and
Mhm. Mhm.
whatnot
Mhm. Mhm.
with the candidates. But for
Mhm.
me, these well, tools can definitely help.
Mhm.
But as for my opinion,
Mhm.
I I because I'm very big on investing on, on talents,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I think I would still go for um someone,
Mhm.
uh someone who has experience, or someone, if I may say, a human being,
Yes, correct, correct.
to do the job,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we are very, people are really very complex, and to be able
Mhm.
to gauge really what the candidate is feeling, or maybe
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
what the candidate, or if the candidate is trying to convey,
Mhm.
you still need to have that personal touch, like what I mentioned earlier. You need
Mhm.
to have that connection with them. And I
Mhm.
know we have advanced so much in terms
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
technologies, but I would still, always go back to investing to
Mhm.
people, and their talents, because it can be developed and whatnot.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's just my opinion on that matter.
Actually, I would also agree on that because I think it's still going to be hard not to be interviewed. I'm just imagining myself being a candidate and I'm being interviewed by say a robot or something. I think it's going to be difficult to keep them keeping that personal
Yeah.
touch or warmth with me. No, so I would agree on you with that. Now, Miss Mitch, I would just like to talk about them and your personal experiences. In your personal experience, what has been the most challenging for you? Like, siguro you can share a bit of your experience, the most challenging experience you had with doing recruitment in the hybrid workplace.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I actually had this experience
Mm-hmm.
previously with an employment that required me to go on a hybrid setup. So I
Mm-hmm.
was working from home, but my employment was actually in Manila. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just required to go there from time to time. And
Mm-hmm.
if I may also just add another, I'm just gonna insert it here. Another advantage for
Mm-hmm.
companies,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of going hybrid, is the expansion of the reach of of
Mm-hmm.
um, of employees, or the
Mm-hmm.
candidates that they hire.
Yes, yes,
So,
that's correct. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
giving, and it's also an advantage for candidates who are far away, but
Mm-hmm.
couldn't really afford to go on site for for
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons. So it's just,
Correct. Mm-hmm.
advantage. Anyway, going back. So while I was
Mm-hmm.
in a hybrid setup, I was also going there from time to time. It's in Manila.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was very interesting. It was,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, the longest time that I went to on a hybrid setup full time. It
Mm-hmm.
was, well, for me, it's just for me. It really
Mm-hmm.
didn't work, because
Mm-hmm.
I discovered something with myself, that I felt quite isolated at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, since probably because it's in Manila, and
Mm-hmm.
compared to, other companies very near, and the time that
Mm-hmm.
I spent working from home and going to the site,
Mm-hmm.
yung difference kasi, or the timeline, medyo matagal siya.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see my workmates,
Mm-hmm.
on a
Mm-hmm.
usual basis, so I don't really collaborate much with
Mm-hmm.
them.
Correct, correct. Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was an individual contributor,
Mm-hmm.
handling my own account and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the job itself, it's still the same compared
Mm-hmm.
to, when I'm on site, working on site.
Mm-hmm.
But having that alone time with
Mm-hmm.
myself,
Mm-hmm.
I guess,
Mm-hmm.
really took a toll on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me, it's different for
Correct,
everyone.
correct. Mm-hmm.
So
For some
I
siguro baka that's the benefit, no, they like to work alone.
yes, and that's when I discovered something, that even though I'm a very introverted person,
Yes.
I still
Mm-hmm.
would like to, see people and mingle. That's when I
Mm-hmm.
decided that, oh, maybe this time it's not for me. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
always open to that, possibility,
Mm-hmm.
given a different circumstances, maybe.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct. Kumbaga, depende pa din sa personality and preference. No? That still boils down to the preference of the person. With
That's true.
everything that we talk about, Miss Mitch, I know that a lot of our recruiters or starting recruiters out there are wondering what are some of the best recruitment practices and strategies in navigating a hybrid workplace?
Mm-hmm. Well, in navigating a hybrid workplace, there are, as I've mentioned, sabi ko nga, a lot of factors and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
First thing to keep in mind would be communication. It's
Mm-hmm.
both ends.
Mm-hmm.
This is especially true for leaders. Kasi our our partners, or when you're when you're a specialist,
Mm-hmm.
um for it's easier to isolate yourself, and not reach out that you're having some difficulties and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the responsibility of the leader to really
Mm-hmm.
extend their extend help and reach out
Mm-hmm.
and really check. Especially
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, there are a lot of things are happening, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that we're not just concerned about our own work or about our own
Correct.
well-being, but
Mm-hmm.
also with our team.
Mm-hmm.
Second would be, we really need to be prepared
Mm-hmm.
and get into that mindset that, okay, we're on hybrid. These days we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be working off site. These days we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be working on site. Planning is also very important.
Mm-hmm.
At least you know what to expect,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd be able to plan, or you'd be able to be ready for your
Mm-hmm.
week,
Mm-hmm.
and um, making sure that everything is communicated well. Also, excuse me, and also for the employees part, engagement is something
Mm-hmm.
that is engagement is something that is really encouraged,
Correct. Mm-hmm.
because it helps us connect with each other more, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, with our jobs, it gives us that bridge to communicate, or to reach out in a way na pwede kasi tayo magtulungan, ganon. There
Mm-hmm.
are things that we are maybe encountering, or
Mm-hmm.
even things that we can collaborate with, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Pwede kasi siya doon. So I
Mm-hmm.
think those are the things to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. I love how you mentioned about keeping the engagement, no, despite being virtual, being online. When I was transitioning then to this online space, doing L&D, it was so difficult keeping everyone engaged. But I feel like what you meant with what you mentioned, keeping constant communication, trying to put that mindset that you're already in hybrid. No, sometimes you're there, sometimes not. And I think that's very important, no, to of course plan ahead and all of that. So again, I've learned so much, Miss Mitch. So again, thank you so much, no, for sparing
Thank
time,
you.
for sharing your time with us, and of course your expertise, no, in recruitment and selection, specifically in the hybrid workplace. So, Miss Mitch, before I end, any advice, any final words, or anything to promote from your end?
Well, at first, I'd like to thank you for having me today. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, a great chance and opportunity to be
Mm-hmm.
part of this today. And well, I probably would say, for just maybe an advice
Mm-hmm.
for our viewers.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of recruitment, there's really no one size fits all. Even
Mm-hmm.
with
Correct.
navigating a hybrid workplace, it can be difficult and
Mm-hmm.
challenging, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it can also be rewarding. It kind of gives you the
Mm-hmm.
best of both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
being offsite and on-site, and
Mm-hmm.
extending that extra help, really, for
Mm-hmm.
our leaders. Extending that extra help, doesn't hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, I hope you all have a good day. Thank you so much.
With that said, Miss Mitch, thank you so much. And I personally learned a lot, and I hope our viewers learned a lot as well. So, again, to our viewers, if you are interested to go back to this episode and revisit our previous episodes, just visit our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. If you are interested in becoming a CHRC member, join us via www.clarkhrcouncil.org/join. So again, thank you so much, Miss Mitch, for that wonderful conversation. And with that, our HR on the go, no, season 2 ends here, and we'll see you on the next season. And again, thank you so much for all our viewers who has been supporting us since our first episode. And with that, see you again next time and stay safe. Bye bye.
The Philippines is being called Asia's rising tiger. But what exactly does this mean? Posting a GDP growth of 6.7% in 2017, the country has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, expanding at a rate unseen in the last 5 decades. The good news is, it's just getting started. The better news is that we have designed a brand new city to be the nucleus of this economic renaissance. Less than 1 hour from the capital, Manila, straddled by hills and blessed with tropical climate all year long. We are building the city of the future, a landmark development twice the size of Manhattan. Originally developed by the Americans for its secure and strategic location in Asia Pacific, Clark is being transformed into a disaster-resilient metropolis that will be competitive and attractive to a global market. It will consist of 4 main districts. The Clark Freeport Zone, an existing mixed-use complex established in the 90s. Clark Global City, which will serve as the primary business district. And New Clark City, which will house satellite government offices and a first-class sports village. Central to all of this is Clark International Airport, which will soon be expanded to accommodate up to 80 million passengers a year. This ensures that travel will be comfortable while trade is seamless. A city unmatched in connectivity, with access to world-class highways and the service of high-speed railways, connecting north to south and east to west, across surrounding seas and over oceans. Clark is a city built as living proof that business in this part of the world is not only easy, but simply better. With no red tape, lower taxes, and endless investment opportunities. This is a city prepared to attract talent so that the country's best and brightest will come here to work and choose to call this place home. Because this is a city that knows how to play, where you can unwind at your own speed, where safety is paramount, and people always come first. This is a city where history and culture thrive, where modern conveniences meet timeless traditions, and progress is driven by passion. This is a city with limitless ambition that may someday find itself among the great cities of the world, built for business so that time is always well spent, and built for people so that life is always well lived. This is Clark.